Double tap. Hey there, and thanks for stopping by to check out my channel. Now, if you're clicking on this video, I'm betting you want a fighting rifle that's capable of quickly engaging targets up close, but still has the ability to confidently and effectively engage targets out to medium distances, say 200 to 600 yards. Naturally, that begs the question, do you go with a holographic style sight or a red dot and a magnifier, or do you go with an LPVO? Well, if you're curious and trying to figure out what makes the most sense for you, then stick around because in this video, we're going to deep dive into that exact question. I promise you, by the end of the video, you're going to have an idea of exactly where both of these make sense and which one is right for you. Now with that, I've got to ask for your help. Help me grow this channel. It's super simple. Make sure you're subscribed. When you subscribe, it tells me you want to see more content from me, and it signals to the industry that you value the content that I'm producing. And that's what opens doors for me to continue creating fresh new content with cool new products that we all like to see. Now with that, let's talk about the gear we're going to run in this video. As I mentioned, the rifle is going to be the H&K MR556A4. In my opinion, this is a great fighting rifle. This is going to be an 11-inch barrel, so it's short, it's handy, it's fairly lightweight. It's going to allow you to effectively gauge targets up close, really fast, with extreme reliability. So the MR556A4 has some really cool updates. I've covered those in some other videos, but that's going to be our base rifle. As you're going to see, she's quite the shooter, and she's capable of distances, I'm betting, further than many of you would expect. Suppressor on this is going to be the B&T. This is going to be the Print XH RBS from Silencershop. So at this point, I got to give a shout out to Silencershop as they helped me out with the can and the Form 1 to create this SBR. So Silencershop has come on board to support my channel. I'm really excited because they make the NFA paperwork process so simple. You're able to create a profile that saves online. They got the single shut trust process that makes it so simple. You can submit forms electronically. Maybe even you're on the road traveling, boom, you can still submit that NFA paperwork. Approval times are coming back faster than ever now. I mean, a couple of days on this can, less than a week on this SBR lower, the Form 1 there. I couldn't do it without Silencershop, and I'm proud to be able to represent them. I've been a customer for a long time, and I truly believe in the work they're doing and their process. Alrighty, so the optical solutions that we're going to run. For the red dot magnifier, it's going to be an Eotech EXPS3-4. This unit is designed for a 50, 200 yard zero, and then it has BDC marks for 300, 400, 500, 600 yards. Now, because we're on a shorter barrel, I had to recalibrate those dots. It's going to work out to something like 320, 440, and 540 yards on my dots. But with this G45 5X magnifier, what you're going to see in this video, I'm still able to engage targets very effectively out to some pretty crazy distances. Just wait and see. So that's going to be the red dot setup. The LPVO setup that we're going to run is going to be an Eotech Voodoo 1-10. So very similar, say, round crosshair with a dot. It's going to have 10 power on the top side. It's going to have 1X on the bottom side. I really like this LPVO. Very clear glass, very nice reticle, very easy to shoot out to distance, as we're going to show in this video. This is going to be a night force mount, and on this one, I'm going to be using the Maztec X4 LRF 2K. I'm going to set this up kind of as a DMR, actually, a mini DMR with the rangefinder. I'll range my target, and this is going to give me my drop that I then hold or dial on the scope to make those impacts out at distance. And here on the left-hand side, with an LPVO, you know, 1X is great, but never as good as a red dot. So what I have here is the offset vortex in a bald knobber mount. So this bald knobber mount goes on the side of your night force mount, puts the red dot there where you actually look through it with your left eye. So when you're down on the scope, you bring your left eye over, you're looking through the red dot, get on target, and then you drop into the scope and you're there. So even with an LPVO, you can shoot quickly up close with a red dot, or you can use it for target acquisition. That's especially important in this video because I'm going to be running the ScopeMate S28 camera to give you a view through the LPVO when I'm shooting out to distance. Because the ocular rotates, I have to stay magnified up, which closes my field of view. So I'm going to use the red dot to get on target. So shout out to Brownells, who actually sent this out to me. Brownells has come on to support my channel. Make sure you're using my code MULLETS, as that's going to save you 10% off of a $150 order on qualified products, and it's going to give me a small kickback. To truly make this short barrel shine, I'm going to be running the Phantom Defense 77 grain OTM load in the NAS3 case. If you're not familiar with the NAS3 case, this is going to be kind of a hybrid case. It increases case capacity so that you get more velocity out of the same weight bullet. So you're able to push shorter barrels to higher velocities to extend the range on them. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to be very impressed with what this 11-inch barrel is capable of doing with the Phantom Defense 77 grain ammo. With that, let's move down to the 100-yard line, see how each of these optical solutions group, and then we'll push the distance out where we wrap up here at the end with a summary around my experience. Really quick, before we start shooting, I've got to jump in here for an announcement I'm extremely excited to make. Since I launched the channel, I've had a ton of requests from you to host a long-range training class or a long-range course where you can come out and learn to shoot with me. We're going to be doing just that. November 15th and 16th at the Day Mountain Ranch in Preston, Idaho, we're going to be hosting the Western Practical Precision Rifle course. It's going to be a two-day event. On day one, we're going to be on the flat range. We have access to a mile, over 100 pieces of steel. So on day one, we're going to get you squared away with the fundamentals. Make sure you've got the data to make that shot out at distance. We're going to focus on positional shooting. Make sure you understand building a solid position so that you can take that shot, spot your impact, and make a correction if needed. And then on day two, we're going to bump up that course of fire to a little bit more of an advanced level. We're going to go up on top of the mountain at Day Mountain Ranch. We're going to have multiple firing positions with distances of 1,000 yards and beyond. We're going to have some pretty massive canyons where we can take some pretty high angle shots and experience some nasty western winds. So this is going to be a very practical based course. Again, we're going to take you from kind of a beginner level, make sure the fundamentals are squared away, to a much more advanced level of shooting on day two. We're going to wrap it up with a little mini competition with those of you that attend with a sponsored prize table. So that's going to be the Western Practical Precision Rifle Training event, November 15th and 16th. Preston is just about 2 hours away from the Salt Lake City airport. The fee for the course is going to include 2 nights of lodging, 2 lunches, and a really nice catered dinner for Saturday night. And I keep saying we. We means I have 2 fellow instructors. One of them is going to be my buddy Nick, who you've seen in a previous video around team communication. Nick has a ton of long-range experience in the Army. He's going to be a great resource for the class. My other is going to be my buddy Justin from Snake Eater Ranch. So Justin is just recently out of the Army. He's got Green Beret experience, sniper qualified. So we're going to have 3 instructors at the class. We're going to try to keep the student attendees pretty small so that it is a high instructor to student ratio. You're going to get a ton of one-on-one time with myself and the 2 other instructors. If you want to learn more about the Western Practical Precision Rifle event, there's going to be a flyer here that I'll put up. Follow me on Instagram. We're sharing information on Instagram about it, and you can find registration on Practice Score if you search Western Practical Precision Rifle. With that, let's get into the video. So out of nowhere, it just started raining. Really quick, let's look at our 100-yard results with the LPVO and the Eotech. So first up, I fired 5 rounds of the LPVO here on the bottom dot. And you can see those 5 rounds went into a group that measures 1.6 MOA. So pretty nice accuracy for a shorter barrel like that. The 5 rounds average 24.45 feet per second, which is solid given that NAS3 casing, a little bit faster than, say, brass. Extreme spread of 36 and an SD of 13.7. So I like where this is at, zeroed up very well. This is a 100-yard zero. Then later on, after I fired with the LPVO, I threw on the Eotech, which actually returns to zero perfectly, which is amazing. And the 5 rounds that I fired here landed a little bit high because of the 50-yard zero, 100-yard line, 2.1 MOA. Average speed of 24.38, which is about the same. Extreme spread of 49 and an SD of 18.6. So velocity was consistent amongst the 10 rounds, the 2 5-round groups, but I do notice that the group did open up a bit with the Eotech. Felt like good shots to me, but I tell you what, that Eotech being an electronic kind of reticle, not as clean as the true reticle in the LPVO. So you gotta let me know in the comments, do you feel like the slightly larger group is a result of the Eotech or maybe just the result of these 5 rounds with a flyer there? I'd like to hear from you. In my opinion, I felt more confident shooting the LPVO and I got a tighter group, as well as I feel like maybe a better zero out of it. So now that you have an idea of the accuracy with each optic, let's start pushing out and engage some steel. Well, let's get started with the LPVO. So I've got a 2/3 Zipsic on the right and a full size on the left. I'm back probably in the ballpark of 150 to 200 yards. So very much within reason for a rig like this. Well, let's go ahead and put some rounds down there, see what we can hit. So I'm just gonna fire some Wolf 55 just so it's so close right here. Now it's worth noting, with this optic, the whole ocular moves. So right now I have it set on 4 power. I'm gonna leave it there throughout this course of fire. So just a practical kind of position right here on practical type targets. So 4 power on the optic. Now, because I have a 100-yard zero, I'm just gonna kind of aim upper chest. Pulled that one low. Let's try the 2/3. All right, so there we are, maybe about 200 yards. No problems. You can see I'm a little bit wobbly in this practical position, but let's keep going. Got the Eotech installed. Now let's give it a go here at about 200 yards. Maybe I'll just go ahead and run with the magnifier. And given it's a 50-yard zero, I'm just gonna hold as center on the plate as I can and see if we can connect. Pulled that one. Ooh. All right, so you can tell here off of a knee, a little bit more challenging than say bipod and bag, but really not a challenge, just using that center dot to make those impacts pretty well centered up on the plates. Let's push a bit further. I still have the same targets out there, but I have increased my magnification up to about 7 power, just to show you what that looks like through the Eotech Voodoo. Again, I can't change it while I shoot, so it's fixed on 7. I've also swapped over to the Phantom Defense 77 grain load. So for this course of fire, we're gonna run it more of like a DMR type rifle. So I'll use the Maztec to range it. I'll point at the target. And it's calling for 3.3 mils of elevation. Now for wind, man, it's coming like straight in my face. So I'm just gonna favor, I mean, maybe it's coming from maybe the 1 o'clock. I'm gonna favor right edge. Packed. Okay, that went over the top. Let's come down to 3. Let's try the 2/3. Packed. Packed. And that one went off the left edge. I felt like I might have pulled it, but you get the gist there. So those targets at 456 yards, very, very hittable with this rig. Let's keep pushing. So we'll go ahead and use the Eotech and Magnifier to engage the targets. Now, according to the ballistic calculator, my second dot down or second up from the bottom should be my aiming point for about 440 yards. So I'm gonna go elevation wise on that dot and then hold right maybe a foot off the plate. Packed. Packed. Try the 2/3. Packed. Back to the full size. Ooh, it went over it. Yeah, that is super fun. So let's, let me just lock her open here. There we go. So I tell you what, it seems like that second dot up, elevation-wise, seems to be about right. So once you kind of calibrate and use a calculator, you can use that BDC. Let's keep pushing out further. Off of the rocks here. So I've upped the scope to about 10 power, adjusted the camera, so that's what you're looking through right now on the Eotech Voodoo. And again, we're gonna get on the target here, get into a nice position, and point at it, and then range it. 662 yards, it's calling for 6.7 mils of elevation. So why don't we just hold that? And it's calling for right a quarter. I mean, it feels like a headwind. I'm gonna favor right edge. Impact, I can't see the light. Packed. Oh, I think I held wrong on that one. Packed, let's try the 2/3. Impact. Packed. 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 And I might have held wrong on that one. But if I didn't hold wrong, no problem connecting even on that reduced sized IPSC. Now here we go, really probably pushing the boundaries on a rig like this. But we're back at what's about 660 yards. And we've got the Eotech and the 5X magnifier. So let's get out there and see what we can do. Okay, so I wish you could see what I'm seeing, but I'm gonna use my bottom dot, which is about 540 yards, according to my calculator, is what it's calibrated for. And I'm gonna hold that about maybe 2 feet above the plate in kind of right edge. Actually, let me just put the bottom dot head height right edge of plate. Okay, it's quite a bit of wind, so I need to come right about a plate and a half to 2 plates. Okay, a lot of wind. So that one flashed, but I believe it was a T-post hit. All right, so I have the hold kind of figured out. Now let's try the 2/3 IPSC. Much smaller target. You know, I'm starting fresh, just hold it in space, guys. Oh, okay, first round. Second round. Now this is hard to repeat because there's nothing, the left edge, there's nothing in there for me to measure off of. See, that went high. Let's go back to the full size. The full size, I kind of have a spot on the berm where I can kind of use as a reference, but the 2/3, if I go back over, that flashed, but I don't think that was a, right back to the full size. Okay, so you kind of get the gist. Well, that was our last round anyway, but we're able to make the impacts out there. I'm holding the last dot probably a plate above and about 2 to 3 plates to the right, just in space. So with that, that's as far as we're going to push this setup, because if I went back further, I'd be holding very much in space. So it seems like the grass is starting to grow up around my normal 850-ish yard spot. So I found this, oh, got to come way up here in the rocks. There we go. So magnification still on 10 power. And let's go ahead and range it here. That's 798 yards. It's calling for 9.6. Let's go ahead and dial that. Okay, and it's calling for right 0.3, but I'm gonna start right maybe a mil or so based on what we thought. 650, and we'll go on the full size IPSC. Okay, elevation looked good just off the left edge. Well, that was, man, I can't see my light. That was an impact. 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 Double tap. That's easy. Let's try the 2/3. Impact. Holy cow, guys. 11-inch MR556A4 ripping at 800 yards. Well, there it is. A look at a red dot with magnifier versus an LPVO on a fighting rifle out to distance. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought. Which one of these do you feel like makes the most sense for you? While you're doing that, let me chat about my experience. First thing we did was move down to the 100-yard line where we shot groups with both optical solutions. Now what we saw at 100 yards, the LPVO laid down the tighter group, something like 1.6 MOA with the Phantom Defense 77 grain load. The Eotech with the magnifier laid down a group of roughly 2 to 2.1 MOA, so slightly larger. Now I will say, I fired multiple 5-round groups with the Eotech, and they all seem to be in that 2 MOA range. So I don't know if it's because the aiming point's a little bit fuzzy or maybe the lighting conditions, etc. But I felt more confident with the LPVO. I shot the group on 10 power. So accuracy potential, I would say the LPVO is going to get the advantage. If that matters to you, if you're trying to shoot small targets, the magnification in the LPVO is going to be a win. The zeroing process was super simple with either optic. From there, we moved out and engaged steel. First off, at say 200 yards, we shot the torsos there. In that example, we just used the Eotech in the center dot to hold dead on. So center hold, that 50, 200 yard zero held true, and we hit the full size and the 2/3 dipstick, no problem. Same with the LPVO. Even though I was using a 100 yard zero on this, favor just a little bit high, and I was able to connect on both of those targets. In many cases, an 11-inch rifle, many of you probably would say 200-ish, 250 yards is about the max distance where you'd be running this rig. So what we showed in this video, both optical solutions are plenty capable of doing that. Well, then we pushed the distance on out a little bit further, and that's where I started to see the differences really show up. So as we engage steel, you know, at 400 out to 600 yards, and in the case of the LPVO out to 800 yards, this is where I notice the pros and cons of each. So let me chat about those. So the Eotech, pros for the Eotech, it's simple. You zero one time, 50 yard, which is a 200 yard zero. You get that battle zero there in the 50, 200. And then you get the BDC dots down below. Well, those BDC dots are automatically calibrated to offer your 50 yard zero. You may have to true them up a little bit for the barrel and the load that you're shooting, but generally those BDC dots are going to help you get on target out to distance. So that's a win. I like the simplicity. I like the BDC dots in the Eotech. The other advantage of the Eotech is this is a very flexible platform. You can pop the magnifier out of the way very, very fast. You can take the magnifier off to dump some weight. So it's a lighter weight, in my opinion, more flexible solution. Also, maybe you want to run night vision. This is night vision compatible. You can look through the sight and passively aim with something like an Eotech or a red dot. So the flexibility is a major, major win. When it comes to the Eotech, the cons for me would be the clarity of the reticle. So even when I turn the brightness down really, really low, so there's very, very faint dots, there's still a little bit of maybe blooming or almost like a mush. It's not a super clean and precise dot. And I'm wondering if part of that is what led into the larger group at the 100-yard line versus the LPVO. The other negative on the LPVO or the Eotech BDC solution is there's no windage holds in there. So you saw me at the 600-yard line with this unit. I made those impacts, but that's because I found a spot on the berm to aim at, a repeatable aiming point for the bottom BDC dot, not because I was able to truly hold the windage. When I shifted over, say, to the 2/3 IPSC, I was kind of out in space. It was hard to be repeatable. So lack of windage dots made it hard to truly correct for windage, even at 600 yards, which is very reasonable for this solution. The other thing about this, magnifiers typically are only 3 or 5x, which is relatively low. So low magnification can make it hard to spot your impacts, can make it hard to make corrections. And I found that to be the case, especially with 5.56. There's very little dust that splashes up. So a negative of this solution would be your ability to precisely engage targets. The ability to precisely spot an impact and make a correction is not there. It's very fast, which is a win. You just throw a dot out there and boom, start pulling the trigger until you get on the target. So to me, that's the value of a solution like this. The LPVO pros and cons, I would say the pros of this, much more precision capable. So maybe you want the ability to engage smaller targets or to make those precise holds. So the reticle in this, your ability to dial in a true drop number, allow you to engage precise targets. You saw it on this solution in the 2/3 IPSC at 650 yards. I made repeated impacts with this setup on a 2/3 IPSC at 650 yards. I was able to hold my wind, hold my elevation, and repeatedly tag that target. I couldn't do it with the LPVO. Now that's going to be the win for the LPVO, the precision. Also the ability to magnify up. So in this case, 10 power. You saw me hammer a full-size IPSC at 800 yards. I could not do that with the Eotech. There's just no holes in the Eotech for me to repeatedly make that happen. So if you're trying to push distance, engage smaller targets, that's where the LPVO makes sense. Cons on the LPVO would be weight and size. Night vision capacity or capability is a little bit less flexible maybe than the Eotech style solution. So in my opinion, when you go to an LPVO, you're going to more of a DMR style rifle. You're looking at longer range shots versus prioritizing close range shots, versus the Eotech is prioritizing close range versus long range. Actually, let me say a con of the LPVO. You have to have some understanding of ballistics to be able to hold to make your impacts out at distance, versus a BDC is just hold the dot and send it. This one you have to think, oh, my dropout there is 6 mils, let me hold up 6. And you actually saw me in this video make the wrong hold a couple of times. So you have to have an understanding of ballistics with an LPVO to effectively employ it. That's going to be a con versus the Eotech. You know, but you think about where this solution is going to make sense. To me, it's that person that's trying to push their rifle out to distance. Maybe you live in the West like this. There's wide open spaces. You're likely to engage targets at several hundred yards often, versus maybe a red dot like this, more East Coast, where it's much closer ranges, and your ability to push out to distance are rare. 3 or 5x is enough to be able to identify that target and rapidly get on it. So in my opinion, they both have their place. It's just a matter of what you're prioritizing in your rifle. For me, I love shooting LPVOs. I love being able to push the distance, shoot those smaller targets, extend ranges. You know, 800 yards with an 11-inch barrel is crazy, but it's super fun. It's very possible, as we showed in this video. But you know, the LPVO, you've got cost, you've got weight. You're gonna have to, in my opinion, add a red dot to equal the capabilities of a red dot with a magnifier. So there's gonna be other factors that play into that LPVO when you think about equipping your rifle. Now for me, in my setup, I really like this 11-inch MR556A4 as a fighting rifle. It's handy up close. It has the ability to push out to distance, as you saw in this video. If I had to choose one for a rifle like this, I would go with the Eotech and the Magnifier. I like the ability to dump that magnifier either off the rifle or off to the side, get the true 1x to shoot quickly up close, and then magnify up to engage torsos out to a couple hundred yards. As we showed in this video, you send a couple of rounds out there, you see where they land, you can still correct and get on target. And that G45 magnifier is enough to do that. LPVOs, to me, that's more of a DMR style rifle. That's more of maybe a large frame AR, a Mark 12, something where you're going to be shooting out to distance much more frequently. So that's my take on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you agree with my take on it? Are you impressed with one of these solutions? Did they exceed your expectations? Let me know. I'd love to chat with you down below about it. With that, thanks for watching. I hope you'll join me in my next one.